I mean, the more and more I look at the Cooperative Program and what it's done in the 100 years, man, there's so many testimonies. And as we get, through the year with the stuff we did at our last retreat that we had that we're going to talk about a little bit later, the testimonies that were brought of what the Cooperative Program has done, as we look at our annual meeting later on this year and we celebrate the Cooperative Program there, there's just so much to be grateful for the faithful giving of that church member that gives to missions through their church, through the state convention, so that the gospel may be taken to the outermost parts of the earth, and churches be planted, and churches be ministered to, and pastors be cared for. It's just amazing what God has done through Southern Baptist in the last 100 years through the Cooperative Program.
Welcome to the GC Collective podcast, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention. From local missions to global impact, we explore the vision, passion, and heart behind our collective movement in California and around the world. Where better together isn't just a motto, it's how we maximize our impact in fulfilling the Great Commission.
Hello, California Southern Baptist family. Welcome back to the GC Collective podcast. Pete, I think your pastor's here. We're going to have to keep everything in line today.
Yes, I have to behave.
Why don't you introduce us?
This is Pastor Tito. Many of you guys know him. He is the pastor of Rice Church of Sanger, which actually does not meet in Sanger. It meets in Fresno. But that's a long story of church planting and church that is 7 years in.
Wow.
And there's multiple pastors at the church that attend, and I get to be one of those guys that is there and support the ministry, and it's been wonderful being a part of this family.
Welcome to the table.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
What's it like being the pastor of the executive director of the California Southern Baptist Convention?
Feels good.
Yeah.
When I asked him to pray about being a part of the church, he wasn't actually the director yet. He was upstairs as the evangelist team leader. And so he worked his way downstairs.
That's
and
right.
So it feels good, but he's family and everybody loves him. And so,
It's funny because before I became the executive director, Pastor Tito reminded me of the movie Coming to America.
Okay.
And you know how the chosen one is up there and the dad's sitting next to him. He said he was going to be like that. He wanted to redo that picture. And so, we have a lot of good stories. We have a lot of good time.
Real reverent relationship I see here.
Yeah. But it's just great. I mean, I love Tito's heart. And his wife is someone that's very special to me because she is also my ministry assistant.
Yes.
Sister Deanna. And so they're just a wonderful family that just blesses my wife and my daughters, my grandson, and they're our family in Fresno, right? And so I thank God that we found a church in Rise where it's a church that's engaged because of the pastor and reaching its community and preaching God's word faithfully and restoring and seeing the restoration of people, elevating them, and seeing the transformation that God does through this church. And it comes out of the passion of this man's heart. So.
Yeah. It's really neat that you don't go to one of our long-standing established churches here in Fresno. There's so many, but you have planted in a church plant.
You can blame my wife for that.
Okay.
I'm a good husband. I listen to my wife. I said to my wife, look, you might not travel with me all the time.
Right.
I was the evangelism and missions team leader at the time. I said, you might stay home. So you find the church that you're going to feel comfortable with. And so his mother-in-law, his wife, all those ladies of the church just loved on my wife.
Yeah.
And she said, this is our home. And, we had to listen to the sermons and make sure that this guy was going to be, aligned doctrinally with Southern Baptists. I mean, when you look at all the tattoos and stuff,
right.
you really question stuff, right? But I'll tell you, this man has been preparing himself, going to seminary, going to Golden Gate, going to Gateway Seminary, and preparing himself. And every day I see the growth in his preaching and the depth and the faithfulness in the Word of God. And so it's just been really neat to be a part of the church for all these years.
It's that's the first thing people say. Oh, the tattoos, they have a preconceived notion. And when I was doing some pulpit supply at Copper Springs, which is Old Town Clovis now, there was this little lady that came up to me after I preached, and I didn't know how to take what she said as a compliment or a backhanded compliment, but she just looked at me, she patted my hand, she goes, "I didn't know a sermon like that can come out of your mouth." Oh, wow. I was like, okay, is that a compliment or, but because she sees the external part of me that she didn't realize, like, oh, okay, he's doctrinally sound, Baptistic, and so there's never judge a book by its cover.
That's true. Let's presume that she had a moment of personal growth.
Yes.
Well, thanks for being here. We're talking about the board meeting that just happened a couple weeks back. There was a news story that went out, but we want to give you a chance, Pete, to kind of talk a little bit about, the finances, some other things that were there. Sure. We invited Tito because he actually got to participate a little bit in the board meetings and the festivities that all went down. But before we get to that, we need to celebrate something.
Sure. Well, I want to celebrate the meeting we had in Memphis.
You say we.
Yes. So Southern Baptists from across the nation came together. Executive directors, our president, Dr. Jeff Orge, and all the agency heads from North American Mission Board, IMB. Some of our spouses came. It was a group of about 120 people or so. So they were all invited because of the roles that we play in, representing our states, representing the organizations that we serve, in a place where it was not too far away from where the motion was passed to begin the Cooperative Program in 1925. Yes, 100 years ago. And we had an amazing time of prayer. Pastor Tito, you watched the program and you saw different people prayed for different parts of our family. Dr. Jeff Orge just talked about, the importance of what we do together. They celebrated that together, what we've done. And it was just such a historic moment for us as Southern Baptists. If you've not watched the video, you can go watch it. We'll set up a link for you to be able to do that. But it was just such an amazing time for us to be able to sign a resolution that was signed by 71 of us to commit to the Cooperative Program as we go forward. As leaders of our organizations that we lead on behalf of our churches, to say we're committed to this. And it will be brought to Dallas. So this resolution will be brought to Dallas. It's just a blessing to be able to say to our family, folks, thank you for what you've done, which we did, but also, hey, we're committed to going forward.
What a special moment. I'm trying really hard not to be jealous that I didn't get to be there. I didn't get the invitation. But, the Cooperative Program is such a hallmark of who we are, and that this commitment that we will not let this baton fall even 100 years later. We will continue. And 100 years from now, the Lord willing, there will be another group of leaders who aren't even born yet who will keep that going. It's, legacy to the 10th power. And I love everything about it. And so this is a great pivot because we had our board meeting a couple weeks ago, but as it's become a little bit of a tradition now that we have this champions retreat where we're bringing in kind of the faithful servants of our state who are sort of giving above and beyond, so to speak. Now, I missed the champions retreat this year because...
For a good reason.
For a good reason. Yes. My daughter became a doctor and had to go to her graduation. And for the record, Pete said I could not come to Champions. I had to go to her graduation.
That's right. That's right.
But I heard it was a tremendous time of fellowship and rallying around the work through the Cooperative Program. Tito, what was your experience while you were there at that sort of time of celebration? What did you see?
Well, I've actually had the privilege to go to every single one of them. As Pete said, my wife works for the convention and is his personal assistant. And so I've gotten to go every year and help out any way I can. And
he helped putting some bags together.
I heard about the bags.
No, you didn't help with the bags.
No.
Just know, folks, we'll talk about the bags at another time.
I had nothing to do with that. I had nothing to do with that. But I have seen it get better and better every year. But for some reason, this last retreat was probably the best, even though every year it gets better. And it was just, I don't know if it was just the intentionality of the networking and fellowship. The first night when we were out in the deck, the patio, whatever you want to call it, where ocean view and just everyone was just talking. I mean, no one wanted to leave, even though they were shutting down the fires and everything. But as every year gets better, but for some reason, this one was really, really, really good. And just a lot of feedback of just same thing, you know, the fellowship, feeling loved, just everybody coming together and truly knowing what better together means. Yeah. And it was really, really good.
Seems like the spirit was really mixed into all of that, Pete.
Yeah. Right. It's funny because in the past, we've brought people that have help with revitalization. They've helped with training with Vacation Bible School. We've recognized people that have done ministry for us in youth ministry. Those are the kind of people we've brought in the past, right? This year, we reached out to some of our churches that are heavily invested in giving through the Cooperative Program, through the state convention. Right. And so it wasn't like the top guys because we couldn't get them all there. Yeah. It was those guys that had time to come. And really, it was an opportunity for us to say, look at some of the things God has done. And it's our first kind of event that we're doing this in the state, right? This is what God has done through the Cooperative Program. This is what we believe we can continue to do as the Cooperative Program funds the ministry. So it was an opportunity to say thank you. And it was also an opportunity to give vision. And so we were able to do both. In the middle of all that, we were able to do our plenary session for our board. Right. So we got a lot accomplished. Tito also attended our board meeting as a guest. He sat in the room and I think it was the first time you've ever sat in the room as a guest, right? Yeah. So what was that like for you?
I liked it. Just someone who yearns to be on the board but can't because my wife works here.
Conflict of interest.
Yes. I really enjoyed it. And just to see, you know, the business being conducted and everybody just in one accord. Yeah. You know, I really enjoyed it. I really did. And to have guests being able to be a part of it during a retreat like that, I think it's helpful to know, like, we get an insight, like, of the business within the board and the convention. And
I really see the scope of the full family as CBU gives their reports, the Gateway and the Foundation, and that we really are working together for one common purpose.
Yes. Well, and you heard reports from all the different chairs of the 7 committees, right? 7 committees that we have on the board, right? Yes. You hear from the executive committee, they hear from all the standing committees, and you hear from each one of them a report of what's happening with the communications team, where they're going, what they've accomplished, the evangelism team, the missions team, the church matters team, you know, the disaster relief group from my office. So you get to hear what's happening and where the convention is going. And especially when we're talking about the vision and reaching 2% of the population of California and how we intend to do that. That was so important to me. Tell me, what did you hear at that meeting when it came to the vision that for you was exciting?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Just to see what you got. I mean, I got to hear the tidbit of business, and just to see that, you know, you guys were really focused on California. A lot of pastors, you know, I go to different clusters that don't get to hear the inside business, and to know that you guys are really working for the betterment of California, and to see that you're focused on seeing the lost one to the Lord, and really having an intentionality of it, and not just, like you always say, it's not my vision, it's our vision, and to really see that everybody's in one accord, that this is the vision that God has placed in your heart, and everybody is all in, and everybody's going to do a small part. Even me being on the executive board of the association, we want to be a part of that vision and what we're going to do as an association to help fulfill that vision. And so
what part do you have within the association?
My part of it is the church plant replant team within our association board. And so we're looking at how many church plants, replants can we get to, you know, new souls within that particular. And then we have the revitalization team, and but yeah, I'm the leader of the church plant replant team of the association, and just a small part of what we can do to help fulfill that vision that God has given you. But to see that everybody, not just the team leaders, but everybody that's on the board, all in, and that is just amazing because they're bought in.
Yeah. Love it.
And to me, that's what it's about. Better together, all in.
What was really neat too was that the pastors that hadn't heard, right? They heard for the first time, and I had one pastor from Orange County, from a Vietnamese church. He said to me, Pete, every pastor needs to hear this.
Yeah.
More pastors need to hear what's happening. I had another pastor of a church in Northern California say to me, I've been on many boards. I've been to many board meetings. But what you shared in this board meeting is vision. It's encouraging. It tells us that we're going in the right direction. He's like, and I've been in boards in the past where there's no vision, there's no direction, and it's just survival mode.
Yeah.
And, what our pastors heard was encouraging. And it's not for the glory of any man or the convention. They know it's for God's glory alone. It's for us to make disciples. And we could care less who gets the credit because it's God who does the work.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just so exciting to be able to spend 2 days saying thank you, pouring in, and sharing vision.
Yeah.
It was a great conference. And to be able to share some of the stuff that's been happening when it comes to the cooperative program within the state.
Yeah.
Right? How long have you been in Southern Baptist now?
Going on 15 years.
15 years. You've been in Southern Baptist?
Since
birth, right? Since the womb. She's one of those predestined Southern Baptists.
The elect.
And so I don't remember a year where there was a goal set of the cooperative program objective where this late in the year, the objective has been met. And we're now in May. We've collected all our cooperative programs giving for the first 4 months, and we are tracking above our budget, which right now, if things hold true, we will end the year at closer to 5.3 million versus 5 million, which means we send an extra 3% to the national convention. We're on pace if we reach $5 million to send 30% of our budget. If we get to 5.3, we're sending close to 33%. And so that was really exciting for everybody to hear, especially since we had to make that change in January when we changed our budget.
Yep.
And so for everybody to hear, folks, God has blessed. The churches have responded. People have stayed with us. And I've seen, when you look at our top 100 giving churches that we post, and we usually post all our giving from all our churches, we've seen churches step up and are giving at a much higher level than they have in past years. That is just so good, because as the leader at the state convention here, I see that as a sign of God's favor over us. And not just in California, but God's favor over all the work that we do across the nation and around the world. And I just thank God for faithful pastors like Tito, that from day one said, we're giving 10% to missions. And his 10% to missions wasn't, I'm going to give to Teen Challenge 2%, I'm going to give to World Vision another 5%. No, it's going to the SBC family, and we're going to tithe as a church from day one. And so I just thank God for churches like that. One of the pastors that was there, man, I can talk about this all day, because it was 2 days of just amazing retreat and an amazing time of just being encouraged. One pastor says to me, I can't believe I'm here. Small church north of Sacramento. Says, I can't believe that I'm here and that we're one of the top giving churches in the state of California. I said, what do you mean? He says, we're a small church. I said, well, you probably give a percentage. He says, We do. And really, he says, I shouldn't be here. It should be my deacon that's here, because he's the one that pushes us to give to through the Cooperative Program. I said, what percentage do you give? He says, we give 20%.
Wow. That is faithful giving.
Full-time pastor. Mm-hmm. They have their own building. They're a legacy church.
Wow.
Not a big church, not a mega church, but a church that has been faithfully giving. And I just said, man, thank you, brother. Yeah. Thank you for what you do. And so it's just really neat to see the men that came with their spouses and to feel appreciated and to be able to say thank you to them. And please go back to your churches and say thank you to your churches.
That's what I was just going to say. What an exciting report that pastor has, to go back and say, guess what?
Yeah. And, we can't go back to every Southern Baptist church and say thank you.
Yeah.
But if we at least begin with our pastors to be able to say thank you to them.
Yeah.
I know it goes a long ways.
Yeah. So I had the chance to talk to Mark a little bit, who's our CFO, about some of the financial reports that were given. And he shared that our investment income is also doing well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. We get a report about once a quarter when we look at it. We don't look at it daily.
Yeah.
The Baptist Foundation of California looks at it daily for us.
Thank you.
Yes, they do a great job with Jonathan and his team over there.
Yeah.
But we get our report, and even in the market that we're in, because we're in a really tough market, and we're slated this year to put in $300,000 of income investment, right, into our ministries, and so this last quarter we actually made enough to cover. So we didn't have a big loss like a lot of people had in the market. We didn't make as much as we could have made, but we have enough made in that first part of the year where we're covering to be able to make that $300,000 that we're trying to get to cover this year's expenses in the budget. So we're seeing God's faithfulness even there.
Yeah.
Right?
What a great financial report for the board. Just across the board, from CP to our investment income.
Well, and then, maybe a lot of people don't know, but in January, we spent a whole session just talking about numbers, finances, where money comes from. And so we really wanted to do a deep dive where our board can truly understand, no matter what committee you were in, where money comes from, and that we're actually standing in a very good financial position.
Yeah.
And so they were able to have that reaffirmed this last meeting.
Yeah. So I get to be the staff liaison for the church membership committee. Tito, that's the committee that, goes through church applications that want to become part of the CSBC family, and also oftentimes want to connect with an association. And I thought this list of churches was really something really cool. And I just want to draw a little bit of attention to it.
Sure.
Because there were 10 churches. I have the list right here. First Ukrainian Evangelical, Mandarin Baptist Church of Glendora, Trinity Chinese Church, Vida Nueva de Sonoma. It's like all of these different ethnic groups are becoming a part of our big diverse family here in California. And it's really exciting to see.
Well, and that's who we are in California. Yeah. We are a diverse convention. You go to other conventions, it's not like that. You might have maybe 3, right? Hispanics, African American, and Anglo. And that's primarily their state conventions. But not us.
No,
I mean, we have...
That's the minority.
Yeah, we have over 200 Chinese and close to 400 Korean and, 500 Hispanics. And
a bunch of Slavic churches coming in.
Right. And just, it's amazing. The nations have come to California. We've heard it many times. Yeah. But the Church of Christ within the Southern Baptists, we are this diverse, group of churches. It's just really, really neat.
I love being a part of that committee because, I don't know, it's just fun to see that happening in our state.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I heard about at the Champions Retreat was this incredible moment of prayer that everybody got to participate in together. Now, we're in the year of prayer right now. Francis has been leading this incredible campaign. I've gotten to see glimpses of it. Tito, what all went down during that Champions celebration when it came to the specific prayer focus?
It was very powerful. I know Francis brought a gentleman to the convention, and I got to sit on that. We actually partnered with the convention on a Wednesday night. We usually have a midweek service, but we postponed our traditional, verse by verse teaching to bring in this gentleman, and he was just basically showing us that type of prayer format. And
you mean charismatic?
No, not charismatic.
Not at all, right?
No, I think the flags are out, but I'm not sure. And I've been a part of prayers like that before, because whenever you go to a Send conference, I mean, that's what they do within the crowd. So I was familiar with it, but he did that at the Champions Retreat. But it was so powerful. I mean, I think out of all the type of prayer formats like that at Send conferences, this was very powerful. I don't think there was a dry eye in the building, because the way Francis just conducted it, and you could feel the presence of God, and it, and it was so powerful. And just focusing on Cooperative Program and the vision and everything that entailed that, and just bringing everybody together. I mean, I haven't been in a powerful prayer moment like that in a while, and even I was teary-eyed. It was so powerful. You felt the presence of God, and I was telling Deanna, I was like, I know he was doing that because it's the year of prayer, but I mean, that's just something that should be implemented at the retreats or at the conference. It should just be something that's implemented, because it brought everybody even more together. Yeah. And it just made it even overall better. I mean, it was just so powerful. Yeah. I can't express enough how powerful it was.
It's interesting to see kind of the progression of the prayer journey of our state, because, we did bring those experts in early on to the board meeting, and there was a lot of kind of practicing and understanding, but now there's like a richness and a depth there in the regular practice that we're seeing these prayer movement just expounding and growing and flourishing. Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens at convention.
Well, after, going through COVID, where you couldn't get close to somebody, you couldn't hold hands, you couldn't do all this other stuff. We're 5 years out from that. Yeah. But to be able to get in a room with men and women who love God and in unison hold hands.
Yes.
And come to the Lord in prayer and just praise Him and worship Him. Just so important that we do that, right? And we were able to do that. Yeah. And I just thank the Lord for where we're going. Not just numbers, but just seeking His face. Yep. Seeking His favor, seeking to show Him our love. And that's what we've been doing through the prayer emphasis. Yeah. And I just praise the Lord for just making us sensitive to that and not just being about doing the business. Right. So it's been such a blessing.
Yeah, I love it. The thing I want to ask you about is the potential move, I guess, of our hub here in Fresno. That's kind of, I've been joking that it's sort of the worst kept secret, because everyone's kind of talking, but nothing has been decided. Nothing has been solidified. Plans are not laid out. No. Tell us where we are, what you're thinking, what the inspiration has been, and what the board is directing.
Sure. So it was last year in September that I met with Dr. Alice and Dr. Jarbo. And Dr. Alice was like, Pete, let me just give you some advice. And he says, I think it's time for this convention to expand, to move to Southern California and be united with the other partners of there. There's a lot we can do together. And I began to pray about it. And I just began to pray about it. And by November, I was pretty certain that, you know what, we need to make a change. And just realizing the expense of the building that we're in, building that has outgrown us. We have 30,000 square feet for... on a good day, we might have 17 people in the building, right? And so it's an older building. It has not always been maintained very well. There's a lot of upkeep. And so just began to pray, Lord, what would it look like? And what do we need to do if we sold this building? that we have held for a long time, right? And it's not in the greatest place of Fresno. I mean,
no, it really isn't. Can I just say one thing? So there's a rule in our office that the women are not allowed to work here alone because it's not safe. And but I work better in the evening anyway. And so thankfully, Rise Church is here. Tito walks me to my car every single time the sun is down and I'm still here because I cannot walk out by myself. So.
No, we don't want people walking in the morning when it's dark, when time changes. We don't want it's a dangerous area. I mean, we've had cars stolen. We have a catalytic converter stolen. Yeah. We've had people get killed not too far, just down the street from here. I mean, it's
not
just,
our people, but
no. Just the neighborhood is bad. And anyway, the plan is not just to move to Southern California and sell the building. That's not ever been the plan. The plan has always been, how do we expand across the state? How do we lean into the resources that this building can provide by investing that money and then using it for ministry? The seminary has had a great desire for us to move into their building. President Adam has been so adamant, brother, we should work together, and I agree, and we're better together. He believes it. And so the plan right now is us to try to figure out, okay, does this make financial sense for us? Can it work? And if it can work, okay, well then how do we expand across the state with this move? So there'd be a group of us moving to Southern California. I would be included in that group with a few others. We'd have a group that would stay here in Fresno in a place that we would rent locally. And then we would have a couple more, what we call our ambassadors up in Northern California. These are people that are quarter time, very well connected with our churches, but they come to our meetings as staff. They know who we are. They can speak on our behalf. They represent us. They're part-time employees, but they live where they're at and they have another ministry that they do. So there's a plan for expanding our staff to be in the north, in the central, and not the true north, but pretty close to it, right?
A lot closer.
A lot closer. Because the reality is that we're in a very big, long state. And it's been proven by the foundation, by the seminary, that you can get to Northern California, you can get almost anywhere pretty easily from Ontario. That's not always the case from Fresno.
No, it is not the case.
It's not the case. I've had to drive up to 9 hours to get to Crescent City and 7 hours to get San Diego. So it's a long ways. You can get a lot easier from an airplane on Ontario to move around. But really, it's not just even the location and getting to places, but it's also strategizing with the seminary, the foundation, the university, which we've already began to do some of those things. But as we're closer together, we'll be able to share a lot of resources. We won't try to multiply some of the resources that we have, but really figure out how to have one strategy for the state, kind of like we do with church planting, where we put our money into church planting with the North American Mission Board. But it's most of the catalysts from the North American Mission Board that are working with the church planters. And so it's one strategy. It's us rethinking how we can be better partners. And so I'm really excited about it. There's so much we have to figure out, like how much square footage do we need to have to put all the cameras that Michael uses for the podcast, and
we need a room for our cameras.
Right? How much space do we need to put all the Bibles that I have in my library, all those kind of things. But there's just so much that we need to do still. And one of those things that we need to give time to is the churches that use our building and the partners that use our building. We have the local association here. We have 2 churches that use some office space here, and one of them that meets here on Sundays, right? They baptize people in the back lot. and so I know for Tito and for, he's going to be directly affected with his ministry. And, what's been some of the response from some of your church leaders that have heard of the move?
They're surprised. I don't want to say worried, because the plan this wasn't going to be our permanent home, but just, when is it going to happen, and what's going to happen with Deanna and you? Are you guys moving down south, or so those are the things that we have to answer. And Deanna's been doing really good, like talking about there's going to be partial staff staying here. And I just told him, we're just going to be obedient to the Lord. The Lord hasn't removed me from my assignment yet, but he hasn't, told me like, this isn't for sure thing as far as, I'm not allowing you to just stay at Rise. I'm just being very open and I'm fasting and just really praying what the Lord wants. I truly believe that the Lord has a plan for Rise. I don't know what that is. But I haven't told the church yet, so I hope they're not watching. My leaders know, my deacons know, my finance team knows. But we just recently went to permanent 2 services. So I just got to figure out, is it going to be in the middle of those 2 services, or are we just going to do it on an off night? Because it's
when you can share the news.
When I'm going to share the news,
right.
Because it's something that they do need to know. And we don't want to be caught off guard, or I don't want them to be ambushed and like, oh, we got to leave. But I believe that the Lord has a plan, and I'm just very open to what the Lord has. And, just got to take it one day at a time. I know for a fact that I haven't slept since he told me. Comes up to my office and like, I got to tell you something. I haven't slept since.
They started in Sanger at a school. Mm-hmm. Then in COVID, they ended up in Clovis at a church on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And then they went to another local church here in Fresno. And then, after about a year and a half of being there, they moved to our building here. So in 7 years, they've moved 4 times. They've got a couple more moves in them.
Yeah, church plants are very pliable. We know this. We know
so,
this.
I mean, the reality is that we're not making a decision overnight. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, we're planning out, thinking strategically, making sure that we answer the questions of people that have concerns, and then making sure that everything makes sense. And once everything makes sense and we're ready to go, then we'll make the move. People say, when? Maybe sometime next year, maybe after the summer, maybe during the summer. I don't know exactly. It's not going to happen this year unless somebody comes and want to buy the building from us for, $8 million, which is not going to happen. We've been getting quoted something close to maybe in the 4s, maybe in the 3.5s. I don't know. We'll see. But at God's right time, we'll wait. We'll do all our faithful work that we need to do. Yeah. And then when it's time, it'll happen, because all of it will depend on the sale of the building.
Yeah.
Us moving down, us preparing the space over there, us renting a place here, everything has to be done in an orderly manner. But we do want people to know that our commitment is to expand across the state, is not to abandon Fresno. We value the ministry here. The roots that are here are just deep. Mm-hmm. I mean, as I've been looking at the buildings we've used here in Fresno, at one time we used to be in a mortuary off Broadway in the downtown area.
Oh.
I'm glad I didn't get to work in that building, but
I would not have worked in that building.
Yeah. One of our guys that is here, Steve Foss, he was a kid. His dad was the associate at that time, and he said that he remembers playing with these long drawers that they used to open and close.
No.
Come on. I don't think they were plugged in, so they weren't cold. But it's just like churches move, state offices move. It's got to be the best thing always to put us in a position to minister to churches. And so that's what we want to do. And those are some of the things we talked about at our board meeting this year.
Okay, so some big stuff.
Yep.
But so we won't hear anything probably for a couple months again after this update. For
sure. September will be the closest thing we'll have for an update, and that's when we bring it to the board and then let them make a decision. And we need to have approval from our board to be able to sell this building before we can do that. So, and we've not had that yet. And we've not asked for that.
That's what I was going to say. You haven't even asked. Right. So, okay. Well, that's a good update. Thanks for sharing all of that. Well, we are wrapping up here, and we always like to try to put our guests in the hot seat, if at all possible, to share a funny story with our listeners and viewers. You have a lot of tattoos. Something tells me that you're a person who has funny stories.
I think Pete's heard this one before, but I was a youth pastor at my previous church, and we were always a youth group that went to the tsunamis or the ignitions. Yeah. And so as a youth leader, you were one of the designated drivers. Well, when it was, I want to say it was Ignition, or it could have been Tsunami, I can't remember, but it was the first time that it was at the convention center next to the new Levi Stadium, 49er Stadium. Santa Clara.
Oh, okay.
And me being someone that doesn't like to go up north, this was the very first time that I've driven up north. So I'm not, down south, I know the freeways.
Yeah.
But this was like the very first time. And so we went up there, I followed, right? Everybody that went up. And then so when we were coming home, I got lost. I lost the tail end of the caravan. And so Deanna was like, do you know where you're going? And I looked up, I go, yeah, it says south. And me, I'm thinking our freeway signs, right? North, south. I'm going south. I'm going to be going home. We're up north. I'm going south. And so I'm driving south. She falls asleep. Everybody's falling asleep, and I'm driving, and she wakes up. And Michael's going to know what I'm talking about this because, he lived in Salinas. And she woke up. She's like, honey, where are we at? I'm like, we're going home. She was like, I think we're in Salinas. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? She goes, we just passed a red barn. And there's a famous red barn in Salinas. I go, no, we're not. And see, back then, I didn't have an iPhone. Siri wasn't popular at that time.
Right.
And so she was
you're
like,
old.
Yeah. And so she was like, you need to get off the road and figure out where we're going. I go, I'll make a right turn here. So
you have students in the car?
Students in the car. Full van load of students. And we're driving. And this road that I took ended up being this windy road. And all of a sudden the sunlight started going down.
Oh, no.
Going
you
down.
took the 46.
Going down. And all of a sudden, it's pitch black.
Oh, my God.
The road that I'm in has no lights. Right. And so Deanna's like, oh my gosh, all we need is for Jason or Michael Myers to pop out. And then the students, the girls were all scared. And then one of our students who decided not to use the money to buy food, but to buy chips and sports drinks, she starts cramping up. So we're lost. I got a female student cramping up like this, crying. And she was like, we got to get out of here. And I'm just like, I don't know where I'm going. I go, hopefully we'll find a way out. Well, all of a sudden, we started seeing a way out. And all of a sudden we went from Santa Clara to Salinas. And I don't know how, but I ended up in Chowchilla.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
And so we pulled over to a Starbucks. And so I'm like, man, we got to figure out how, because I don't have directions.
Right. No Thomas guide, no nothing.
No, nothing. And she was just like, oh my gosh. She goes, we got to get these kids home. So we were supposed to be arriving around 8 or 9. And so I'm pulling up to our church at 1 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
And so the pastor's there with the parents of the children I had.
Who have been waiting for hours.
Yes. And so I'm getting off with this, like, we're back. And he's looking at me, and all these parents are just looking at me like concerned and mad. I'm like, what? They're home safe.
and so the
you should be grateful.
And so the next year he became a church planter.
Yeah.
A lot easier than youth ministry.
So I was the one that always was known to get our kids lost. That was the one major one.
Yeah.
But there have been others.
There's been others.
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
But that one was major because I was like, we're in a windy road with no lights. Like, I don't know where I'm going.
Kids are getting car sick.
When we go places together, I won't let him drive.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, no,
we went to a Dodger
game.
I'll drive. And I was like, he's like, you missed the exit. I'm like, I'll get off somewhere else. Just like, where am I going?
Oh, no. Yeah,
no. Not with Tito.
Yeah. I'm
and
like,
not with the Dodgers.
Yeah, you can drive.
Yeah.
I know you know this part of town. You're from down south. So
that's unfortunate.
But yeah, that was if those eyes had lasers, I don't think I'd be sitting here.
Yeah, you'd be sliced up.
I was just like, they're home safe. 4 hours late, but they're home.
Thank you to all of the youth leaders across California who
I'll always be a youth pastor at heart.
Home safe, regardless of the time. Well, thanks for being here.
Loved it. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your experience at the Champions Retreat. And I'm looking forward to your report at convention in October, Pete.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm excited about what God is doing, and I just want to share. I want to share what God is doing and where we're going.
It's gonna be good. Yeah. All right. Well, we have an email address as always, podcast@csbc.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.